Okay, so I'm quickly going to introduce you to the tracker for the new DIT. I'm opening up this spreadsheet file, which is macro enabled. It only works in the desktop version of Excel in Windows, so there are some real limitations in that respect. There's a disclaimer here which is designed to remind you that the tool in and of itself, or the use of the tool, doesn't guarantee that your assessments are accurate. Quite standard stuff, I think, really. When you get the tool and you look at it for the very first time, you have a primarily blank canvas to work with, and we are limited to supplying or limited to supporting 30 students per worksheet. If you have a class of 45, you would need two worksheets, and you'd name one Class A and one Class B, for example. You're free to enter into this field the name of your student, and you can cut and paste a list of students from other applications. And in a minute, we'll look at a more complete version of this, but I just want you to get started to see how it all works. Here are captured the marks for the various tasks for component one. Here are captured the tasks, the marks which you've assessed for the various tasks in component 2. In order to look at the assessment grid for your student for component 1, you click on this button here on the left. When you do that, you come into a presentation which is like this. You've got the student's name here. Your registration number for the student has not yet been entered, so we can look at yeah, let's look at how we do that. We're going to go straight back to the records. There's no data in there, so do you want to save 0? These marks don't have a number. Yes, so we're all 0 here. If this candidate number was 7892, for example, and then we come into component 1, you see 7892 is captured up there. So the idea here is that the mark grid is presented for you in a form such as this, so that you can look at a trait, and if you double click that cell, it will highlight. And as you go through the traits for the task 1A, marking Mr. Brady's work, and you end up with a pattern that looks like this, you may decide that that mark should be a 7. You may decide that it should be an 8. Training will be provided to help how you go about doing this. The number that you put in here, though, is the number that will be carried through. If you look at the top of the sheet, you see now that out of 60, the student now has a mark for task 1A of 7. You've highlighted on here and captured the pattern that you think reflects the standard of the work on a trait by trait basis for task 1A. You can give feedback. I found your document called My Dog, which had useful content in it. Now, strange comment that I've put there for this particular student, but I'm doing double duty here in terms of giving feedback to the student, as well as creating a signposting as to where the evidence was, because it's digital evidence for DIT that enabled me to come up with the assessment. So you can move down, double click, double click, double click, maybe 7 here. Let's just fly through this quickly, maybe 7 there. Maybe in this particular task the student did less good, and maybe we'll give that a 3. And then here you can end up with strange patterns, and it is something that training will be required for, to help you to figure out what number you would put in for a pattern that looks like that. The way that the traits are laid out, they don't necessarily have equal weighting, so you may decide that the first trait in this particular three is more valuable than the other two, in which case it could pull up the number to 5. If it were equally balanced, that number might be 3 or 4. So let's put 4 in for now, and then you go to the records. So what you see now is for your student, for component 1, 28 out of 60, 47%. There's nothing yet for component 2. Works exactly the same way when you go to component 2. We're now in component 2, 0 out of 60. Same thing. Double click the cell to identify the pattern of your judgment in terms of the traits. I'm going to give this 4. As you go through this, if you decide to go back to records, one task has no marks entered, so that's fair enough. And you can see here that only task 1. So this tool can be used. In this example here, I entered marks for all 4 tasks. If you're doing tasks at different times and you capture the data for task 1, that's perfectly fine. If you go back and look at this task, the pattern is captured. Your double clicks, the pattern will change, but your mark won't. You'd need to now say, well, now I don't think this quite merits a 7. I think it's a 6. If you go back to the records, you'll see that that's now changed to a 6. If we look at component 2, you can see that the pattern is captured and your mark of 4. So what the tool enables you to do is to enter your assessments along with comments as you work through and as you work through your whole class. So I'm going to switch now to a mock-up of a whole class of 30 students to show you through some of the more useful reporting tools that are in here. So just bear with me a second. So you can see now I have a full set of component 1 and component 2 assessment data for a full 30 students, all totally anonymous and made up. I can go in and look at any of the assessment sheets that I want. The most useful time saver in here, however, are the use of the reports. The individual report is a report that you can give to a student on an ongoing basis at any time as an update or feedback as to where they are in the assessments. If we look at an individual report, I'm going to select the first student, for example. We're on individual report. I want the individual report for component 1 for that student. There's a prompt here because if you do all 30 students, it can take up to 1 minute and 10 or 15 seconds. So if we look now into the folder where the tracker sits, you can now see that there's a PDF for component 1 for that first student. If we open that up here, we'll have a quick look at it. So it pulls through the pattern of your assessments as well as your comment. And as you scroll down through the list, this is something that is in one page, a good thing to share with a student on an ongoing basis, or if you want to organize interventions of some sort. So that's the report, which is called the individual report. So if we go back to the menu now and select the same student, also individual report, and now we can run the report for component 2. And now you can see that there's a component 2 report which has now been built. We'll quickly have a look at that. And in the same way, it's a capture of the current status. You may not have assessed all of the tasks, you may be halfway through, or you may have done them all and you want feedback to enable them to do a resubmission. Reports. If I now look at the assessment record report, these are the reports that are required by the awarding organisation. There are some details that need to go into that, so that's what this this button here is for, prepare forms. So in here you can insert the name of your center, the center number. You as a teacher can put your name in here. You can load a GIF of your signature using this button here, and you can update the assessment record with that information. And the benefit of doing that is you will see here, if we select the same student again, and this time we're on assessment record report, and we'll run report 2. And now if we look here, now we've got the component to assessment record for this student. If we open that up and have a look at it, you'll see that the report now spans 2 pages, because at the bottom there you'll see that as well as capturing the last couple of tasks, your assessments, your comments and your numbers, it also has the assessor declaration. Here's where the GIF has been dropped in. The name of the student is there ready for the candidate signature and date. So this is all of the authentication that's required by the center. It also, the center or the moderator requires center name, center number, candidate number. So all of that is captured automatically for you by the tool. So that is a very quick whistle-stop tour um, about how the toggle button here switches you between the individual report and the assessment record report. The select students helps you to decide which students or all of them you can use for running the report. Like I say, if you select all and do an assessment record report, I think it's taken on my computer 1 minute 10 seconds. It may be quicker or slower depending on your computer, I think. Um, Importing data is what you use if I'm going to cancel that. Import data is what you use if a new version of the sheet comes out and you don't want to hand type in all of your assessment data again. It will pull in the data from the previous version. Reset all data is useful if you want to completely clear the spreadsheet and have it set up exactly as it was when you first got it. That might be useful for starting with a new class or something. So that's a quick run through on the use of the tracker.